Welcome back to the MicroAdvice podcast. Today, our spotlight is on WaxPrint Media. Based in Accra, Ghana, WaxPrint is a boutique strategic media and digital marketing agency with a focus on technology, innovation, and luxury brands in Africa. To learn more about what WaxPrint is doing for the African markets, we're here with founder and director of strategy, Muhammida Muhajir. Muhammida, thanks so much for taking the time to be with us today.
Wow, James, thanks for having me. I'm excited to, kind of talk about what we're doing here with WaxPrint Media.
Absolutely. And your story is incredibly fascinating. So I know that you're a digital marketer, media consultant, entrepreneur, filmmaker, host of the Soul Chronicles podcast. And from what I found about you, you've worked in almost everywhere around the world: Europe, Asia, the United States, the Caribbean, and now Africa. Also, I saw that you serve some of the biggest brands in the world, like Land Rover, Audi, Rémy Martin, as your clients through WaxPrint Media. So, let's get started with, how did you come up with this concept, and what's the need that you're aiming to solve in the market?
Well, before I actually launched WaxPrint Media, I had a pretty extensive background that was in marketing, brand marketing, before I, kind of added the digital piece to it. And then, so I had already worked with a lot of brands, and I came to Ghana to do a fellowship working with tech startups. And at that time, I really wanted to see how my marketing and communication skills were going to apply to the technology industry. And what I learned was that everybody needs the same thing. Like, marketing is marketing, communications is communicating. People need the same thing, whether it's a tiny startup or it's a huge, massive multinational brand. So that was one thing. And after I finished working at the incubator with the startups, I actually started working at a digital agency. And so that's when I really kind of, added the digital aspect to my toolbox. And it was such a good time, just because really, if you don't have digital in marketing, there's nothing that you can be, there's not a lot that you can do right now if when digital is not a part of your marketing. So I spent like about a year working at the agency, and I realized with my other skills, with my business development skills, client relations, that I could just be doing, I am the agency, sort of thing. So I just kind of left there and started really, just brick by brick building this agency over the past 3 years to where we are today.
That's an incredible story. And it sounds like a non-linear journey, but you got to where you are eventually through some challenges and successes. So one of the things that came up last time we spoke, you started in Accra about 3 or so years ago. I would imagine that the landscape is different than other places you've worked, particularly New York City, where you left. So, what are some of the challenges and basically maybe easier things that are that are different in Accra versus the U.S. or other markets?
Yeah. Well, I've lived in Ghana now for the past 6.5 years. And I think something that's really important before you kind of start a business in a new place is really understanding the landscape, understanding the players. You got to spend some time understanding those things before you can just jump right in. Otherwise, you're going to have a lot more failures than are necessary. So, I before I started this particular company, I spent some time just kind of studying. I think that it was something that was very, very important for me to do. And then just started to look at where was there a real need. When I was working at the other agency before I started WaxPrint Media, I saw that it was kind of hard convincing a lot of the local companies that they needed digital. Right. And I'm like, no, those are not the companies I need to be working with. I mean, I rather spend my energy on developing your strategy and executing it than convincing you in this modern time that you need digital marketing.
Right.
If you don't know that, I'm scared for you.
That's another problem that
Yeah,
we're aiming
that's
to
another
solve.
problem. So that being said, I began to kind of work with a lot of the big international brands that are operating in Ghana and in West Africa, who they already have like a mandate throughout their companies that digital is a line item, right? Those are the companies I need to talk to who have marketing line items and a digital marketing line item. They already understand it, they get it. They just, how much money do we need? And what can you do with that amount? Can you execute or can you give us success? Can you give us returns? Let's go, right? So once, I just started to realize those are the type of companies, and that's when I started working with the Land Rovers and Jaguars, Rémy Martin, Pernod Ricard, KLM, Air France, those kinds of brands, because they know from globally this is what needs to be done. They just need to find a local player who can make it happen. And so I turned out to be the local player who could help make it happen, who understood, international standards of the way things need to be, where the reporting needs to be, where communication. I mean, I worked at, at a corporation before, so I understand the way the communication needs to be had. There needs to be constant communication. You need to return emails and phone calls, really, it's urgent matter. So those are some things that are different than, let's say, how things normally operate in Accra and probably many cities and countries in Africa, where things are just on a different timetable, I would say. People can respond maybe when they want to, or maybe they don't check emails for 2 or 3 days, things like this that international company is not going to be used to that, and that's not going to be acceptable. So I guess those are some of the differences and challenges all mushed together. But yeah, so those are some of the things that really kind of allow me to create a niche, but show some of the challenges just in the market. I mean, just even in business. I mean, people could take a while to get back to you, or or want to see you in person a lot. Just things like that. That in New York, nobody ever needs to see you. Like, can you do the work? Send me an email, sign the check, it's done.
Yeah, that's incredible. I had spent some time in Europe myself a few years back and found this similar thing, that it's not necessarily better or worse, it's just different. And the faster you understand those differences when working with international companies, the better off you'll be in navigating those, the day-to-day life. So when you first started, have you had any challenges building momentum or finding customers initially? And then, if so, what did you do to build your brand and attract more and more clients?
So, I mean, as I said, I mean, I just started literally like, 1 or 2 clients. Some I had met at the other agency and they wanted to continue working with me. So that was really positive. So I could start start the company working with, some people that I already had relationships with. So I think I maybe had 1 or 2 clients that came over with me. And we also do PR. So I do digital marketing and we do PR. So some companies I only do PR, some I do both, and some it's just digital. And then from there, what I realized is it's really important for a new company to kind of have some legitimacy, and some big brand names are important, right? So I knew that that was going to be key for me. And so I kind of set out to get a couple of well-known brands under my belt. And I found that once I was able to do that, even if and I'll say this, sometimes it might not be for some exorbitant amount of money or whatever it is, you just get in. Like, for me to be able to say, when people ask me who's my clients and I can say Jaguar and Land Rover, they're like, what? They don't know that maybe I might be getting like, who knows what rate,
Right. You,
but
you got
that
to put the
kind of
logo on.
gotta put the logo on,
Yeah,
right? So that built some instant legitimacy for the agency. It was invaluable. So that was really my approach at the beginning. Just have some really solid clients, service them like crazy, and then build a reputation like that. So that's kind of like how I started it from the beginning.
that's great. I love hearing these little tangible stories, and from a founder, hearing that it's okay. to maybe take a little bit less money up front just to build that brand, and then you get more and more and more as you grow. What have you done to differentiate WaxPrint and offer a superior customer experience to some of these brands? I would imagine the names you mentioned, Jaguar, KLM, Land Rover, don't just work with anyone and they expect the best. How have you done that?
Well, like I said, I mean, I had a pretty extensive background already working in marketing. I worked for Nike for 4 years in marketing, and from there I did consulting for other brands, Diesel and K Swiss, PepsiCo. So I had experience working at that level. And what you find in these markets is there are not a lot of people here who have that sort of experience. There are some, but there are not a lot. So that already gave me an upper hand, just kind of like having that kind of experience that a lot of people don't have. You won't find somebody with that kind of corporate level experience just landing in Accra or Lagos or something like that, unless their company brings them, right? Maybe they're working for Deloitte or I don't know, some big brand like that, Price Waterhouse or Shell or something, and they are brought here. But there's not a lot of people like a me who just kind of have that kind of big brand experience who just land here. Um, so that kind of definitely set me apart. So I understood, what their needs are. And I think another thing that really set me apart is that because I am a foreigner and, most of these companies are, foreign owned or managed, I'm in some of their, or even if they're not, even if they're local Ghanaian companies at that level, I'm in some of the same social circles as them. And I think this is something really key for business development. I have some clients now and I see they have like salespeople, maybe even at say like the Jaguar dealership. And I'm like, I don't see your salespeople at any events that I'm at. Those were their target customers are there. How are they not there, right? So I'm in the same social circles as most of my potential clients. So they see me out, they see me at dinners, they see me at drinks, they see me at the same event. So they're like, oh, okay, she's like us. You know what I mean? It's just kind of like, it's a no brainer. So I think that's something else that has given me an advantage as well.
Yeah, I agree. I found that that's half the challenge is just breaking in to that social circle and being seen or viewed as a peer in some of these areas. And even, brokering the introductions. I feel like that could be a fantastic way to get yourself into new clientele. Muhammad, so I understand that you organize some of the large marketing events for these organizations. How do you do that with near perfect execution and surpass expectations, from getting high profile venues or attendees? What are some of the tips and things that you found to be successful in pulling this off flawlessly?
When you do a lot of events, you can foresee the issues. Just in your mind, vision, you're walking through the event, you're like, okay, this is how it's, how is it going to be upon entrance? Oh, wait, there's rocks there. Ladies with heels are going to have, like, you're literally like walking through every aspect of the event before anyone else sees it. So it's just so many details that you can see visually, and that allows you to plan ahead and prepare for anything that could be a mishap. So I would just say that, I mean, one thing, we didn't go far back, but I was a science major at school, so at university, so I have a degree in microbiology. And even though I don't do anything else with science, um, I feel like it has given me like this way of thinking and approaching things in a very scientific way. Details and things have to be aligned. So I feel like that has even like helped me in my marketing career. And it's just the way that I approach it. I can see it. I can move it around elements, visually before they even happen.
Yeah, that's great. I love that precision that you probably have carried over from your microbiology background and education to marketing and really seeing around walls, if you will, and what can happen, and then planning. I love the planning aspect. I'm always thumping the table on uh, more planning, and that drives an easier execution. Muhammida, last question for today. What are some actionable tips that you would offer to those startups maybe seeking operations or finding customers outside of their home country based on your experience?
Well, one thing that I realized, I work, as I mentioned, at an incubator with tech startups, and I mentor a number of entrepreneurs, even now. And I don't think that entrepreneurs. I mean, I know we understand how important customers are, but not to the extent that that you really are. Like your customers are your gold. And you hear like, most entrepreneurs, they're always looking for new business and, you know, um, so much to the extent that I don't think that they take care of the customers they have in the way that they should be. Because what I find is my customers bring me so much work, more work than any, Google ads or social ads or PR or anything. It's when I take care of my clients the way they bring me business. So that would be like my number one, two, three, four, five tips. I mean, treat your customers like they are golden, right? I mean, however much money they are spending, paying, whatever it is, I mean, just treat them like, I don't even know how else to say that. Like, so that's one thing. The second thing is when you're thinking about sales, and I'm going to use that term because it could be a business development across the board. This is something that's really key. How can I communicate and stay in communication with this prospect when I'm not selling? Right. So I look at so many different ways. Like over the holidays, I worked on a theatrical production. We did their digital marketing. And I was like, oh, this is a perfect opportunity. Let me just send out a message to all my clients. Hey, do you guys want some passes to this play? Like, I don't think anybody took me up on that. But still, like mentally, they were like, oh, that was great. She offered us tickets to a Christmas play.
That's a
Um,
brilliant idea.
yeah.
That's
So I
great.
feel like that is key. Touch them as many times as you can when you're not selling.
Hmm.
And then they'll be so much more open to the sell or the pitch, because they don't see you anymore as just the salesperson, even though they know that's what you really are. So I just feel like that's another one that's just so key in terms of business development. And then in terms of looking outside of your home country, I really love LinkedIn. I'm just such a huge fan, and just the amount of connections that can be made, outreach, all of that on LinkedIn. So I think it's an excellent platform and tool for just kind of doing some of this outreach and making an international connection.
Wow, that is sheer gold advice. I love it. The first point about treating your customers like gold is music to my ears. And that's exactly the type of behavior I'm trying to instill through these podcasts and sharing that information with other founders.
Yeah.
Muhammida, thank you so very much for taking the time to be here today. This was fantastic advice you shared with us.
Oh, good. Hopefully it'll be helpful to someone, some founder, some entrepreneur, or some, marketing or business development person.
Absolutely. I'm certain that it will be. And thank you all for listening. If you want to connect with Muhammida or myself, I'll add our contact information in the box below. If you enjoyed this video, please like it, share it, drop a comment, ask a question, and be sure to follow us on YouTube, Spotify, and iTunes. Thanks again. Have a great week. We'll see you right back here, same place, same time next week. Bye now.